challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic can be effectively utilized in a manner that we achieve the purpose. The purpose is to either prevent the repetition of the surge. Another part is, even if we can't prevent the repetition of the surge, then we are able to minimize the severity and thereby the loss of precious lives. And while moving with this intention, I think the whole format is available for the different authorities who are in the front line. SOPs are there, SOPs have been conceptualized, but then little auditing is required to be done. From the ground zero, frontline workers are fully equipped with the arsenal required to fight against the enemy. In this instant case, it is the COVID-19 virus, which is highly infectious. Now, the only challenge here is that since the time which was available with the government, which could have been effectively, productively utilized to ramp up the facilities and take care of the requirement of the manpower, meaning the trained manpower. When we are actually apprehending impending war, then we need to ramp up facilities. We need to see that, okay, all those who will be tasked with the job of fighting against the enemy are equipped with the arsenal. So this is precisely what we wanted to know from ground zero, from every district. And sad to say is that the time which was available between the first wave and second wave could have been effectively utilized, which was not effectively utilized. Rather, what we see today is it's more like trying to close the stable door after the horse has bolted. So it's as bad as that kind of situation. The cases have surged. We have seen quite a number of loss of precious lives. And in respect of Meghalaya, if you look at the proportion between the death count and the number of positive cases, daily positive cases, the death count has been always on a higher side. And we wanted to know the reason. The reason is that the preparation which could have prevented this high number of death counts could have been, to a great extent, minimized. And the frustration associated with not being able to save lives also could have been minimized. In Resu Belpara today, what we have seen is that except the facilities, which is bad with the oxygen facilities, the ICU, if you recollect, the ventilators have been provided during the first wave. So we had expected that the ventilators must be operational. The ICU which has been created should have been operational, but it's same in all the districts, whether it is in case of Tura, whether it is in case of William Nagar, Ampati and Resu today, even Nongpo and other districts. The ICU beds which are created as part of the infrastructural ramp-up exercise, they are not operationalized because they have not trained the manpower. Operating ICU, operating ventilators, you need people who are trained for the specific job. This has not been done. Now what we know is that, okay, the exercise to provide the necessary training for the doctors and nurses are being done now. They must do it as per the need. Better late than never. Whatever is possible now to salvage must be done. And at the same time, when the instances of these COVID positive cases going to a very critical condition require your transfer of the patient from one place to another hospital where you have better facilities, you will require also ambulance. Now, none of the ambulance are equipped with the basic life-saving equipment, nor advanced life-saving equipment. In absence of which, when you transfer a patient who has gone through a critical condition, you are only going to endanger the life of the patient, and you will not be able to allow the patient to reach the next destination. So these are deficiencies which are there across the state. This has to be corrected. We will be taking up with the government. We have already started telling them, drawing the attention of the government, and response are being seen to be trickling in, but they should pull up their shocks and ensure that we do not leave any space for the virus to really get havoc against the population. That is one part. Another part is, see, when you are dealing with this highly infectious virus, we all know that the virus didn't originate from our state. It's coming from somewhere else. So the likely entry of the virus into the state, how you can insulate the state and the population from the virus, from the entry of the virus, and thereby, minimize the cases. Management, interstate border management is very crucial. So it has to be effective. We'll have to see whether every district who shares such a long interstate border with Assam has enough or otherwise adequate manpower, and if not, then how we are going to have corrective measures put in place. All these things have been discussed. As far as the North Garhwal is concerned, we have been using this NH51 as the main entry, which caters to the entry from Assam towards West Garhwal, Southwest Garhwal, South Garhwal, and East Garhwal as well. But we must not forget that there are other important roads which are used by people in respect of their interstate movement. And we must ensure that the district authorities have enough manpower to look at those areas. Otherwise, the tendency of the people is that, okay, if you have a restriction and regulate the entry and exit in one particular area, then they will find another way. Jugaru style is there. So how we can take cognizance of these challenges from the perspective of the district administration and the authorities who are assigned with this responsibility, and what more things are required for them, the deficiencies associated, how do we address them, and how do we support them.
So as of now, have you all actually spoken to the government on this matter, or you all are waiting to do that?
So you are aware that we have been having a kind of very healthy discussion, interaction with the government, and looking at all areas of concern as to how we can take cognizance of all those deficiencies and how we should put in measures to have those needed course corrections. And in the process of this kind of discussion with the opposition and the government, what has happened is that, okay, what has been presented before us and what is on the ground are two different things. As I have said, when they have given us presentation, since we were told from last year that, okay, the ventilators have reached, they have indicated the numbers of ventilators in the respective civil hospitals and district hospitals, also the ICU beds. So it was obvious and natural for us to believe that once you have put them and created the infrastructure, that means it should be operational.
Yes.
But when we came to the ground zero, after knowing that, okay, there were quite a substantial number of death counts, which is disproportionate as we compare with the rest of the country, then we came to know, well, you have the ICU, but it's not operational. So what was presented before us in such kind of discussion and meeting was in paper, but not on the ground zero. And this is something which is not acceptable. And I think from that perspective, I must express my sense of frustration and dissatisfaction in as far as the government's way of telling us and actual doing things. Because it amounts to telling us something which is not inconsistent, which is on the ground zero. It's more like telling us lies.
Yeah, that is what
It's more like telling us lies. So it's not only to us, but the people of the state.
Yeah.
And another thing is that all the ambulances that has been purchased last year, none of these ambulances are equipped with this basic life-saving and advanced life-saving support system. And in absence of that, you cannot fight against this pandemic. So probably what is happening is that the purchase decisions of these equipments, including the ambulances, are not decided upon by the technical team. That is my presumption and assumption. Otherwise, why is it that what is actually required is not purchased and what is not going to be of use is being purchased? At the end of the day, while we fight against such pandemic, there is no space to play to gallery. We have to be practical. We have to be very, very serious. It's a very serious matter. Governance per se itself is a serious business. And when we are dealing with pandemic and life-saving exercise, it's more serious. There is no space for complacency. There is no space for any attempt or inclination towards telling what is not fact. We have to be honest. We have to be transparent. We have demanded the government to be transparent. We have demanded the government to be continuously engaging in conversation so that everybody knows. Because at the end of the day, fighting against pandemic, you got to carry the people along. It has to be a collective fight.
So there's actually quite a lot of concern regarding lockdowns or containment zones being put in place. Now what has happened is most of these places which have containment zones, people are facing basic problem in terms of food and daily needs.
You see, we have been, I got your point. I think we have been persistent in our stand because COVID-19 pandemic has been notified as a national disaster under the Disaster Management Act 2005. So if you go through the relevant sections of the responsibilities vested with the government, both the union and the state governments, it's very clear. It's not just the mitigation, it's also rehabilitation. People who have been the victim of any disaster will be required to be identified, and all the rehabilitation and reconstruction is a part and parcel of the disaster management as per the mandate of the Act. Besides, prevention. So prevention also is part and parcel, so that you don't again become a victim. You minimize the vulnerability. That's why you have all those SOPs. You have a complete disaster management plan both for the state. That was notified during my time. So there has been exhaustive engagement, consultation, discussion even before we notified this disaster management plan, national disaster management plan. There has been complete engagement between union government and the experts and the respective state governments. So these are an offshoot of a long-drawn exercise which are basically based on the ground reality of what can be anticipated. Say, for example, when you are talking about how to prepare yourself and how to prepare the community to respond to any disaster like earthquake. We will always look at that 1897 12th June earthquake, mega earthquake in the northeast. How devastating it was, and if the same the earthquake of the same Richter scale strikes again this northeast, what is the likely damage? And therefore, which are those vulnerable areas? What are those, necessary, I must say, the preventive measures to be put in place? All these things are all part of the disaster management plan, and they are available for us. Similarly, if you are talking about pandemic, there are innumerable accounts of all those past pandemics, which gives you an idea as to how the pandemic is likely to behave. Pandemics of different kinds. This COVID-19 is a pandemic associated with highly infectious virus. It's not a pandemic with a bubonic plague, which is a bacteria. So different behavior of different pathogens. If it is a bacteria, how the bacteria is likely to behave. If it is virus, how the virus is likely to behave. Because virus is notorious for mutation, fast mutation. So the more you allow the virus to find new host and allow it to have diverse host, it will be faster in mutating. So you will have a bigger challenge.
And also vaccinate everybody for free this time.
This has been our stand. We have been consistent, we have been persistent. That's why prevention of recurrence of disaster, how will you prevent? Vaccination is one of the way to prevent. So it is the onus of responsibility of prevention is with the government. So it's a responsibility of government. Simple. Thank you.